The IDF and gateways. Okay, just a little heads up, just a little warning, Betsy. After today's video, I'm pretty sure this is content you've never gotten before, and you're never going to be able to think about the sky or the firmament we call the dome ever again. So just a little warning in case you don't want your paradigm busted up. This is what came to me as I got my new neural network during this past Sabbath. So IDF, what does that stand for? You know what gateways are, right? That's going to be, the gate is your pineal gland. But IDF, and that's what I'll call it around here just to keep my words minimum, right? Invisible Dome Project. Now, if you haven't listened to my last video, one of my last videos on the Dome Project, how day 2, the firmament was never called good by God, you might want to pause, listen to that one. It'll help this one make more sense. I do my best work on the Sabbath. I get my new neural networks and just a continual conversation with Holy Spirit. It's the best time of my week. Of course it is. So the Invisible Dome Project, the IDP, or what did I say earlier? IDF. I meant IDP. Anyway, Invisible Dome Project, IDP. It's a part of us, right? It is our timekeeper. It tracks all of us atomites. There's very few of us, right? There's way more 1,000 to 1 day 6 people than atomites. Very few of us. But we Adamics have a soul. That soul has a very high frequency, a sound, a vibration, which is the highest of all of the humans. So we are tracked, for we are the target, right? All that matters is that the Adamics never wake up. Because we have a soul, the loosh, the emotion, the fear, the rituals that come for us. Okay, it doesn't come from day 6 people. It only comes from the Adamics. It's the soul that creates the loosh. We're going to be talking about, this video is all about the IDP, the Invisible Dome Project, the gate, the pineal gland, the spiritual seat back to Jesus, and the loosh. We have to wake up to this. But if you're continuing idolatry, you won't. You'll be sent to the left with the goats. Jesus will say, I never knew you. Right? Because you're talking from the IDP narrative. You have to let go of the IDP narrative. So we Adamics, we're the target. We must never wake up and stop the IDP idolatry, the rituals that the day 6 people have put in place. The day 6 people are not tracked by the IDP. They are simply programmed life forms, right? I've said it before in other videos, PLFs. They are programmed to keep the entire simulation intact for the loosh of the Adamics. They're simply the background people, others have called them. NPCs, I have called them. You know, not non-playing characters, but non-participating consciousnesses. Either way. Once we know this and how to use our God-given dome correctly, like Jesus did, we reclaim our source. What is our source? Our kingdom within. The human Adamite, that is the only one that has this ability. Once we understand that our identity is built entirely around our memories. All of our memories are within the IDP, within the dome. And we can ask for total recall. That's what I did this past Sabbath. That's where this content today is coming from. That is just one one of the ways to correctly use our own IDP. What do I mean by that? To correctly use the IDP, the Invisible Dome Project, you unplug from it. There's a frequency being emitted, an extremely low frequency. It is the hum of the earth. That hum is meant for a couple of things. The biggest being distraction, keeping you asleep and consuming, obeying, to keep you in idolatry. And only you can get back what has been hijacked. The IDP, the dome, can give us back what has been stolen by the dark fleet. They can't get it out of the dome. They can't get it out of the firmament. They can control and manipulate the firmament. They can use it for their purposes, but they can't get it out. You have to wake up to this fact. The dark fleet will use the IDP. That's why God never called the dome good, because he knew it would be manipulated against the Adamites. The dome is used by the dark fleet for one reason: to oppress, to depress, and to enslave the human knowledge, capability, and potential, our spiritual authority. Listen, Jesus told us we could do more than he could. We're all Jesus. All of us, Adamites. We're all the sons of God. We are just like Jesus. We have to accept that. We have to wake up to that. If we do, they cannot have us. I should say, the purpose of this IDP, manipulated, dark controlled of the dome, is because they cannot have us believing that we are Jesus, that we too can do what he did, that we have spiritual authority. As long as we see the world through our current memories, then we will know ourselves only through the filters they put on us, through the fears they inject into us, and the fragmentation of our souls and spirits. We got to go beyond that thinking of needing your ego, needing your memories. That is not who we are. We are consciousness. Consciousness can be projected anywhere, at any time. Remember again, I've said it before, it's why Jesus said, "Who do you say I am?" That means you're in the here and now. That is where consciousness exists. Not distracted, but in the present moment, which is all that actually exists, the present moment. There's no past, there's no future. There's no linear timelines. It's an eternal present, with a T, with you being silently in your presence, with a CE, right? You have lived, and I remember mine, in other domes outside of the 7 continents that we are lied to and told is all of Earth. Earth is not a ball spinning in space, right? That's bad theology, going against basic Bible facts. Earth is circles of land. The whole ET, extraterrestrial, just means extra land. ET means extra land. There is, under just the Great Dome alone, 178 other dome worlds. If you want to see maps of them, pictures of the dome worlds, go to my Instagram, paranormal_queen. And I put that up on Instagram. I have it on my Kindle, which I don't have with me right now. Anyway, so the circles of Earth, the dry land called Earth, go way beyond the 7 continents. We're enslaved in a tiny little dome that we're calling, that's within the Antarctic Circle. We are currently oppressed and enslaved here. Now, here is the fact. There are portals all over this little circle that we're in, this IDP that we're in. There's portals all over where you can send your consciousness to get back to truth, wisdom, your original celestial lands. Call it Eden, call it the Ark, which is the great library where it exists. I've been there. You can use these portals to get back your spiritual authority over the dark controllers. We must go outside of linear time and perceive ourselves, Adamites, beyond this dome. Since right now, currently, we're not allowed to travel past the first layer of the ice walls, and yes, there's many layers, but we're not allowed to travel, as Admiral Byrd did, and the last to do it, over the ice walls. Now, people did prior to Admiral Byrd, and a lot of this knowledge comes from reading their books. There's explorers in the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, books that still exist today, maps that exist today. Again, I put it on my Instagram. Those maps were drawn by explorers, Captain Butler and Admiral Morris was just 2 of them that I read. They made those maps. They went to all of the dome worlds. They were retired naval people. And after the Revolutionary War of 1776, they fitted their ships to go beyond the ice walls because they were allowed. No one was stopping them. That didn't happen until 1959. The treaty was signed. We have to stop thinking that history is what we are told it is. Think for yourself. Go outside of the box and read for yourselves. You have to perceive yourself beyond this dome. So, our Creator, our Father, gave us His firmament, the dome, for a reason. It was not to enslave us or to keep us from exploring all of His creation, all of the circles of dry land, on an infinite, who knows, endless earth. I just know what we've already explored. There's 178 other dome worlds. But He knew that the dark angels, fallen angels, what I'm calling the dark controllers, the dark fleet, all of it, dark, period, dark, evil. It would be manipulated and used against us, which is why He'd never called day 2 creation good. Currently, the IDP is being manipulated to control us, to atrophy our pineal gland with frequencies and poisons. The IDP actually projects thought forms, images, archons, memories to us, so that we remain tied, tethered, and married to our story, our ego, we call identity. So we look at the dome, right? And we see stars. We see the moon, the sun. Actually, it was never called. Joseph was the one that gave the sun and the moon their names. In Genesis 1, it's just called the greater light and lesser light. It's just 2 lights in the sky, moving around opposite of each other. There are 2 lights in the ice wall. The dome is a wall of ice, separating the waters below and the waters above. That's all that is. The stars are lights, all in that wall of ice, called the dome, called the firmament. So the sun is not a ball of fire, 93 million miles away. The moon is not a rock floating around in space. All of that is a lie for a reason. What's the reason? To use the false flag of the fake, hostile, alien takeover, again, on us humans. Why? For further control, for further enslavement, to bring us to a one world system. The entire lives of space is for this reason. So it's coming. A lot of money and people and time has been invested in the lives of space, the lives of planets, deep space exploration. There's many atmospheres underneath the ice wall, underneath the dome, in which there's areas which you can probably float, but that's not a topic for today's video. I'll get to that, on how some of it works. They make just enough of it work that you will believe a grander lie. So while the dome is ice with those lights in them, it's also being used to reflect back to us our identity, telling us, making us believe that we are not important, that we are minuscule in the the thought of space and galaxies and trillions of planets. It reflects back to us that we are separated from our source. It keeps the atomites divided in ego, in war with each other, with the different religions and the different politics and the different, put whatever label you need to put on it. You've got to let go of ego. Ego means edging God out, okay? Like everything's an acronym these days. Ego is edging God out. Let go of ego, let go of memories that make up your identity. And be only in the present with a T, away from these distortions of frequencies that the dome is bombarding on us, emitting to us a narrative. That narrative is what we call science or space exploration, colonizing Mars, satellites, political strife. And we keep running towards safety and success. All of that is a narrative that does keep us separate from our kingdom within. We cannot continually be in the rat maze looking for cheese. We go within. We find the silent presence of who we truly are. That and only that will allow you to feel freedom. That is the only time freedom actually can occur, will occur, happens. Now, we have what is in our brain, a part of our brain called the reptilian brain. Its function, since the last human reset that happened in 1728 AD, is designed and held in place by the IDP, is to keep us hypervigilant, which results in us being anxious, exhausted, and forever endlessly distracted and totally engulfed in the system of control. They have designed the system of control that they have designed. Now, the first goal, right, of the IDP, Invisible Dome Project, that is the first goal, to keep us anxious, exhausted, and distracted. The second goal is to be like the dark controllers. What do we know about the dark controllers, the Satanists, the evils? They love their rituals. They need rituals. So they keep us, you and I Adamites, doing rituals without knowing it. Well, they're little things. Engaging in daily rituals. One of the biggest rituals that we do is called the invention of the clock. Again, linear thinking, timeline. Needing to know what time it is at every other minute. We wear clocks on our wrist. There's clocks in our car, clocks on the stove, clocks on the wall. There's clocks everywhere, by your bedside. They have you addicted and literally chained and enslaved to time. That is a ritual. That gives them loosh. Every time you care about what time it is, every time you live your daily life by the clock, that is a ritual. I realize that a lot of people have to do that. It only takes one generation to just simply stop it. Just stop. Just don't do it anymore. Young parents out there, just stop sending the kids to institutes. Stop living by a clock. Just stop doing the system. Don't work it any longer. Get back to being an Adamite. Live in a garden. Our emotional tie to time, our emotional tie to thinking in a linear fashion, is one of the largest loosh for the dark fleet. And of course, I've already talked, ad nauseum on the Sunday worship services. If you're going to do the Sunday worship service, when you get in front of Jesus, he'll throw you to the goats. I never knew you. That's not keeping the Sabbath. That's doing what is comfortable, and it's your ritual that you are tied emotionally to. And I can only hope, I can only pray and hope that 99% of people doing the Sunday thing are day 6 people. They are programmed life forms to do that. I understand that. That's not who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the few Adamites that might hear this. I don't care about the PLFs and the NPCs, day 6 people. My content, my videos are only for a young Adamite out there. Be the generation that stops it. The IDP wants us to do all day long rituals. It's found in your thinking. You know, you have repeated actions, repeated routines, repeated thinking. Why? Because since the reset of 1728 on the Adamites, the pineal gland, today people think the pineal gland has simply been calcified because of fluoride in the water. But the real story is much more sinister, much darker, much more nefarious than fluoride in the water. And that's true, yes, fluoride will calcify your gland. What little has not been ensnared and a fine nets around it. The pineal gland is your actual gate, your gateway back to our Father. It is the gate to the kingdom within. Now we find safety in our known patterns of actions and thinking. We don't even deviate away from our own narrative. It's our own feedback loop. This lack of growth spiritually feeds the IDP the loosh they need. There is only one goal for the Adamite: to critically think for yourself. Independent thought, far away from all the teachings that has been grounded and established and in lockstep since 1728. All of the science, the entirety of our narrative is first required within the Adamite to be silenced. The frequencies of the dome, right? Obey, consume, procreate more little Adamites so we can continue our dominance and enslave a nation of hive mind worker bees. Again, predictive programming. You remember this in the 70s, the famous movie, They Live. Right, you can still find the sunglass scenes on YouTube for free. They Live. The sunglasses was an allegory, a metaphor, if you will, a symbol for the darkening of our pineal gland, the darkening of our pineal gland that bears repeating. So if that darkening hadn't happened, we would be able to see the vibrations making up the words everywhere, subliminal programming. Like I said, in the movie They Live, you thought you were looking at, a nice billboard, but instead you were looking at words like obey, consume, reproduce, no independent thought, watch TV, submit, conform, stay asleep, do not question authority, And the best, remember he was at the magazine stand and he's got the glasses on and he's seeing all of this for the first time, and the magazine stand manager, what have you, walks over with some singles and a $5 bill in his hand, and instead of it saying the $5 bill, when looked at it with the glasses on, it says, "This is your God. That's your mammon." Remember all the skeleton people in They Live? They were, and still are today, the skeleton people are the day 6 people. It's simply what meant that they have no souls. That's why they were portrayed as skeletons. Now, they do run the narrative under the dome. They're the presidents of our countries, of our universities, of the medical cartels. They're all the celebrities, the media. They fit in lockstep with the IDP, right, Invisible Dome Project narrative. They enforce it. They keep the simulation going. They keep the hum, the low electronic frequencies, alive and well. They keep the theology of the deep fake space and the lies that we put a man on the moon. This is the hard, sad, cold facts. Once you get your neural network away from the netting on your pineal gland, that only observing the Sabbath can do, until then, you will continue to be controlled by the IDP. You think it's just the sky and clouds and the lies of outer space. All of this is transmitted 24/7 by what you merely think is the sky. It's a controlled, manipulated dome. Again, that's why God never called it good. Day 2 of his creation, it was not called good. Our last human reset to the Adamites in 1728 with the IDP, it was not just what we had to perceive, right, the sky in a certain way, but we were implanted with the filter, again, in our reptilian brain. And that filter is the same thing as like a transmitter or receiver for the ELF, low, or LEF, whatever it is, low electronic frequencies, that's coming, the hum from the dome. That low hum is constantly causing a friction, a state of static. And that state of static keeps you away from knowing who you truly are. Your spiritual authority, it keeps you away from your spiritual authority. It keeps you from never deeply thinking or even wonder who you truly are, and instead keeps you task-oriented, hive-minded, like ants or bees. It's spiritual technology. Why? Because if you live within yourself and you have no need for anything outside of yourself, you can't be controlled. That is the reason for idolatry. Idols of any kind, sports, shopping, concerts, casinos, festivals, all of the world's playground, is taking away from your own kingdom within. It puts you as another idol. It makes you another brick in the wall of the Freemasons of mind control. It puts you worshiping outside of yourself. Again, with all of the thousands of religions, it's all time outside and not within. Remembering who you are and where you have been throughout the domes around the circles of earth. When you spend time within, silent, you block the ELF. You block the hum. All of who you are returns happily. It cannot get to you with the hum being there. Now, it's taken me 5 years here, silently, in my little cave, getting my neural network, without me knowing it, for 4.5 years. I've been observing the Sabbath for over 5 years because I never leave. I don't go outside. I don't engage. I'm not in society. I don't have a need for friends. or relationships or family. None of it. Except a couple times a year I see my son. That's about it. But here in my cave, I've been getting my neural network built out of the reptilian brain. I've been losing the filters. I'm telling you, once you stop the idolatry or the Sunday worshiping and return to the Sabbath, you too will get your spiritual self and your spiritual authority back. The sad fact is 99% of the Adamites, in each reset, this is like the 7th one, or maybe the 8th, I've lost count at this point. Anyway, in each of the resets, the Adamites need the hum. They are addicted. All they know is the narrative. All they know is the noise and the idolatry. So that is how they control and enslave the masses of Adamites. Not there's a lot of us, there's not. Because of this filter in our brain. Again, it's a finely netting, or I should say like a network of protein fibers not detectable by human perception. It simply looks like naturally occurring human tissue found in the entire body, like the fascia. But unlike the fascia, they emit and receive frequencies from the IDP, invisible dome. It's nanofibers that mimic our biological tissue and has replaced our pineal gland. Some of us only partially, but most of the Adamites completely. The pineal gland is our gateway, our God-given gate to who we really are and how we were made to be in the garden. And it's the only gateway back to doing all that Jesus told us we could do. Let's read it. Matthew 7:13 and 14. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction. And those who enter by it are many, for the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. That would be the Sunday worshipers. Without this gate open, you cannot perceive past your 5 senses. And they, the dark controllers, understand this and why they needed to shut this gate up. Your connection to God is the pineal gland. And without this knowledge and understanding and getting back your pineal gland, you continue to be their food source. You continue with your rituals, obedience, and compliance, and addictions and idolatry to be louche, food source. Your consumerism, all of it. It fulfills what they need. Now, while they could not completely destroy the pineal gland, they tried. That was not allowed. But they could, again, atrophy it to the basically not being usable at all by using this netting. Again, I've said it in so many videos, the nets, the snares. Without the gate open, Adamites cannot hear the frequency of our Creator or the frequency of other domes that actually have our celestial lands where we belong, under, again, the Great Dome. There's many walls of ice. So we can't get back there. Our consciousness will remain trapped in this little prison dome that we're in right now. The IDP keeps this gate of netting. It keeps us believing and obeying the narrative, the worker bees, the religious zealots, and a million types of idolatry and consumption. It's a constant hum that never stops. Now, for the good news, If you're listening to this, you're ready for the hum to stop, because now you know, and what is known can now be perceived. The IDP is no longer invisible. You know. They cannot control those who know. That is the gift we are given. Once it becomes visible, it can begin to dissolve. How can you dissolve something you don't know that's there? Now you know it. It's there. Now you can do something about it. You can dissolve this out of your brain, out of your mind, out of your thinking, out of your belief systems, out of your rituals. Simply let go. The netting that is in place right now, it will begin to melt away. It will literally be put into the lymph system and flushed out of your body. But you must now step away from your normal routines. You can't keep doing your rituals and your routines. No more idolatry. You must let go and let God. Now we can better understand what for me, for the longest time, was really hard to understand. All of Hebrews, which you know me, I believe that was written by God himself. I don't believe that was a man. There's too much wisdom in Job and in Hebrews. But Hebrews 13:12, let's read it. Wherefore Jesus also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered without the gate. Wow. Did you hear that? Jesus did not have a gate. In other words, his gate was not closed like us, right? He didn't have the netting on his pineal gland. He didn't have the snares. The gate wasn't closed. Go look in the concordance and it'll say, actually, the closed gates of hell is what the gate there means. That's how you too, he told us we can do more than he did. Why? It's our original design. Without this gate being open, like Jesus, when you stand in front of him, he will toss you to his left with the goats. And he will say, I never knew you. Why? Because you're taking to him the narrative of the IDP. You're going to Sunday services. That's idolatry. You're not keeping the Sabbath, not taking the necessary time to open the only narrow gate back to your Father, back to your celestial lands, letting go of the dark hum of this tiny little dome project. Right? We read it earlier. Broad leads to destruction. Broad is the ways of this invisible dome project. Amen, Potter? Potter out.